A lot of talk about Cordarrelle Patterson and Tavon Austin leading into this year's NFL draft at the wide receiver position, but we've got some guys you might want to keep your eye on too. Welcome into the Sporting News Studios. I'm Tom Vandervoort. Joining me now on the phone from Optimum Scouting, Eric Galko. And Eric, I know you don't have Patterson and Tavon Austin up at the top of your board. You've got Keenan Allen of Cal up there. Talk about Keenan Allen and your wide receiver rankings in general.
Yeah, I think Allen's the best receiving prospect in this draft class because of the fact that he can make plays in the seam, on the outside, extending away from his body and finishing catches, as well as adjusting after the catch to work upfield as well. He's a guy who has very efficient routes in that 10 to 15 to 20-yard range, guy who gets separation and can win on jump ball situations as well as win with his route running. I think he's a very pro-ready guy, and if he can answer some injury questions at the receiver position, I think he's the best receiver in this draft class. But as a whole, this receiver class doesn't really have any top 10, top 15 worthy draft picks, but a lot of depth in that early second-round area. The whole second round could see as many as 8 or 10 receivers drafted and picks 25 to 45 alone among the receivers. I think it's that talented of a crew. I think we're going to see a lot of stars in this draft class at receiver, just a matter of which ones.
I noticed number 2 on your list, Quinton Patton of Louisiana Tech. I think a lot of people might not know about this guy. What should they know about him?
He's one of the most decisive route runners and decisive players in general I've ever scouted as a receiver prospect, both from the fact that he knows exactly what he wants to do out there. He's a guy who was very productive against Texas A&M and other top teams around the country when he did play them. But he's a guy who gets open based off his routes, based off understanding how defense is trying to attack them. He finishes every catch, can work downfield vertically, can work in a short area, can go across the middle and be effective. I think he does everything well enough to think he's going to be a Greg Jennings-type receiver in the NFL. Not as flashy. He doesn't have the upside that Cordarrelle Patterson or Keenan Allen or even Tavon Austin have. But if I need a number 2 receiver long-term for my NFL franchise, Quinton Patton is that answer.
Now talk about Austin, because this is a guy who, like you say, has a lot of upside, a lot of intrigue, but also is a bit undersized, or I guess maybe we should just say small. Is that why you've got him down there at 10?
Yeah, it's tough to grade Tavon Austin because I think for 7 or 8 NFL teams, he's a first-round pick and could be a top 15 pick on some teams' boards. But I think for 20 NFL teams, he doesn't fit what they can do, and they can't use him well enough to consider him a first-round pick. He may be a fourth-round pick on some boards. So I think Tavon Austin's success in the NFL is going to entirely depend on where he ends up in the NFL. I think he's an explosive playmaker, but needs at least one physical wide receiver opposite him to make the defense play up a little bit and Tavon Austin get vertical. Also needs a good running game, so he's not asked to make plays in a short area that much. I think he needs a perfect situation to be successful. If he gets in that situation, he can have a lot of success. If not, I think we could see a Dexter McCluster-type prospect where he's not used effectively in the NFL.
Gotcha. And finally, let me ask you about sleepers or guys maybe that we wouldn't know about if we're just an average college football fan or NFL fan that we should keep our eyes on and not be surprised if they go fairly high in this draft.
Yeah, I think in the second, third round area, Kansas State receiver Chris Harper wasn't really used effectively with Colin Klein at quarterback this year, but a guy who reminds a lot of an Anquan Bolden type receiver, very physical in the short area, finishes every catch, can box out defensive backs and linebackers to make plays in traffic. I think he's a guy teams are going to look at an Anquan Bolden and say Chris Harper could be that in 2 or 3 years. He may go as high as an early second, maybe one of the dark horses to be a top 40 pick. And also in the later rounds, Ryan Spadola from Lehigh, a guy who's a sneaky good athlete, played in the Patriot League, not necessarily known for NFL draft talent, but Spadola's a guy who has good size, has underrated athletic ability, can work in the slot and work downfield. I think teams compare him almost to a Jordy Nelson type prospect, which is upside in the slot as well. So I think Spadola's one to watch in that mid to late round area. I think that could be a solid contributor even as a rookie, despite coming from a small school.
Very good. All right. Thank you so much, Eric. Appreciate your time today, and we'll catch up with you later.